In this video, I'm gonna teach you how to use TWedit to add new components to the simulations. So this is where we have left off our last video. So let me close CompuCell out the player window actually. Let me actually close all the editor windows of TWedit. So as you remember, after we generated our simulation, we expanded the CC3 project and we inspected its content. Now I want to show you how to open the files of the simulation. So the easiest way to open every file that simulation consists of is to select .cc3d root element. So this is the first element of the CC3D project as displayed in this panel, and double click. All right, so all the files open. I'm going to change, make the font smaller. So I will press Apple key and I will scroll down the mouse button. Perhaps in your system you don't have to do it. My configuration file for TWedit is such that I have to do it. So not a big deal. Let's move on. So the simulation consists of XML file, and let's examine the content of the XML file. So here we have a metadata section where we specify number of processors that we want to use for the simulation, debug output frequency. In the pod section we specify dimensions of the lattice and average membrane fluctuation. So this is temperature parameter, number of steps we want to run. So you may recognize some of those values from the steps where we were configuring simulation. Then we have cell type plugin, we have volume plugin, we have center of mass plugin, contact plugin, and then finally at the end we have, at the bottom we have this uniform initializer. So this uniform initializer lays out initial cellular pattern. Okay? So what I'm going to do is right now I'm going to select this section. So I'm selecting everything from steppable closing element up to steppable beginning element. And I'm going to delete this. I'm going to save the file. So Apple S saves the file, or Control S if you're on Windows. All right. So now if I run the simulation, let's do it again. So right click at the root element of the project, open player, and the simulation should start running. So hopefully you're not surprised by what you see. We don't see any cells in the simulation. Why? Because we have removed all the cells. So I'm going to teach you how to use TWedit to create cells, but this time we'll do this in Python. So let me close CompuCell 3D and let me go back to Python script. So I'm going to go to steppables file. So steppables are, as you remember, are Python objects that are being called every Monte Carlo step. Okay, so in particular, if you look at the first simulation steppable class, it has start function, and in the comment section, so this is auto-generated code. In the comment section, we can see that we can put here any code that runs at the beginning of the simulation. So that's what I'm going to do. So in this code, we are going to create a cell or a few cells. So how do we create cells? Well, you can obviously type Python code, but if you don't remember, and to be honest, I don't remember off the top of my head the exact syntax. So I'm going to CC3D Python menu, and this menu is super useful because it contains lots of helpers that make your interactions with simulation code much easier. So I'm going to go to cell manipulation, and I'm going to choose a menu item called create cell. And after I do this, the template code gets pasted in the editor. So after I So what I can do here is modify the template code. So first of all, I'm going to be creating cells of type A. So in CompuCell 3D, the way we want to create, we refer to cell types is either by their ID. So for example, if we go to cell type plugin, we see that each cell type has type ID. So type ID for cell of type A is 1, type ID for cell of type B is 2, or we can instead use the following construct if we type self capital A. So self capital A gets resolved as type ID 1, so that's how CompuCell operates. So we're going to save this file, and I'm going to run the simulation again. So right click, let me zoom in. So the way you zoom in on this view is essentially by scrolling. So I'm scrolling here. So this is where we created our initial cell, and there it is. It's actually slightly bigger than the one that we created, but that's because we have volume constraints. So essentially we create a small cell, and then volume constraint determines, so volume constraint is specified here, so it determines by how much the cell will grow. So to summarize this lesson, we have learned here how to use to edit CC3D Python menu to easily access certain syntax for simulation, certain constructs for simulation that otherwise you would have to type manually by hand. So hopefully you find this useful, and in the next videos we will continue exploring this video, as I'll be teaching you how to take this simulation to the next level.